If you were to remove all social media from your life, what would change? Would you suddenly have more time on your hands? Would you have less stress throughout your day? Or would you feel cut off from your friends and family, especially in a time when we can't see many people face to face? This is a question that I wanted to answer for myself. So like many people, my relationship with social media has definitely been up and down, but I have taken some specific habits over the years, or incorporated specific habits in order to try to break that social media twitch. So for example, I've turned off badges and notifications on my phone unless someone is contacting me directly. I usually leave my phone on Do Not Disturb anyway, but I wanted to go further. I wanted to see how far I could remove social media from my life, see how much of it I could get away from, and see what the result of that would be. And as I have been considering this topic, a book kind of fell into my lap. That's what this video is about. Oh, hi. So this whole thing started with a simple question. If I were to remove everything from my life, what would I want to reintroduce? Not only from a physical standpoint, but also I've been really interested in this question from a digital standpoint as well. You know, I was going through this process and thinking it through, and I'm like, well, what about social media? If I were to remove all social media from my life, which ones would I want to reintroduce? Not have to, not feel obligated to. Which ones would I want to reintroduce? I became more interested in this idea. And yes, of course, I saw The Social Dilemma on Netflix. I became really interested in it. My friend recommended it, so I went and watched that. And you probably should as well. It's a great documentary. As I've been thinking about this, you know, I've been looking for ways. I'm like, okay, well, what's the next step? And I was so lucky that a few friends recommended another resource to me, and that is Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. This is the part where I show you the book, but it's just on my Kindle, so there it is. But what this book suggests, what Newport suggests, is to actually do a 30-day digital declutter, not just a detox, right? So I think we're all pretty familiar with the whole unplugged movement, like, oh, you know, log off of everything for a week and see how you feel and take a break. And that's great and all. I definitely think you should do it. But what would it look like to put into place a more permanent lifestyle change? So at the end of that set period of time, not just going back to what you're doing, but consciously choosing what you want to reintroduce. And so the book recommends a 30-day digital cleaning, stepping away from everything that is not essential to your life or work. And at the end, choosing what you want to bring back in. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and do it. And thought I'd bring you along for the journey. You're just gonna be wandering everywhere, aren't you? Okay. So one of the big things that Newport recommends is setting rules for yourself. Just really clear guidelines on what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do during a digital declutter. So my rules are very much just based on my own habits, based on things that I know have been problems for me versus things that haven't been. So I had 3 main rules. First of all, I had to delete everything fun off of my phone. Get it as close to a dumb phone as possible, but while still holding on to the things that can only be accessed through a phone. So I removed all social media, I removed all games, anything that was not necessary, but I kept things like Google Maps, I kept things like the Chipotle app to order Chipotle, because we eat a lot of Chipotle these days. And I wasn't even allowed to use the web browser unless I was already right next to a computer, in which case it doesn't really matter. Rule number 2 was no social media at all. So nothing on the computer. And that includes both YouTube and medium.com, which is a website that I would frequently read as well as write on. One exception to this rule was messaging, so I did keep messaging apps on my phone, and I was allowed to log into social media for the only purpose of responding to a message if I needed to really type something that was too long to type on my phone. But other than that, no social media at all. Rule number 3 was no Netflix. And Netflix hasn't really been a problem for me. I'm not a big TV watcher, but I had a feeling that if I removed both YouTube as well as all these other sources of digital entertainment, I would definitely feel a stronger pull to spend more time filling my time with Netflix. There were some exceptions to this rule. First of all, I'm allowed to watch Netflix with my husband because that's what we do over dinner each night. That's kind of our time to be together. And then also if I wanted to watch Japanese shows for the express purpose of studying Japanese, because that's something that I'm doing right now, then I could use that as listening practice. So that really removed the majority of digital entertainment from my life. Everything else, of course, was fair game. If I wanted to, I could play video games, I could listen to podcasts, listen to music, I could even read books on my Kindle, even in bed, totally fine. But the point was to remove the endless scroll, the information that I don't have control over what I'm consuming. Remove those elements from my life and see what happened. So with all of those rules laid out, then I was ready to get started. So today is day 2. I started this all yesterday. So the biggest part of this experiment that I have been nervous about is removing both YouTube and Tumblr, because they are actually parts of my regular schedule. Every day over lunch, I'll watch a YouTube video or two while I eat, and then my incentive for going to bed on time is, oh hey, yes, bed is boring, but at least you can look at stuff on your phone for a little bit. So yesterday over lunch, instead of watching videos, I actually just kept reading. So I ate my food while having the digital minimalism book open in front of me, and that worked perfectly fine. Bedtime though, I ended up staying up later because I knew I didn't have Tumblr to read, and I ended up staying up way past my bedtime, but it was actually okay, because I'm like, well, ultimately it's probably roughly when I'd be putting my phone down anyway, and instead that time was spent sitting and talking with my husband, which is the best. So can't be too mad there. And then this morning was interesting. Once I sat down at my desk here, sure enough, the first thing I did, I sat down and I pulled up Facebook. And I opened it, I was like, oh wait, I'm not supposed to be here. So I went over and I just logged out of my social media accounts on my desktop, so that if I do find myself once again just mindlessly going over there, I won't be able to access anything, and I'll have that little barrier to remind me that I'm not supposed to be there. Oh, and something else I did is last night I actually sent a text to all my family members who may, they're the only ones who would potentially be tagging me in things these days. And I just let them know that I wouldn't be on social media, so don't be offended or sad if I don't comment on something. And, if you're doing this yourself and you're concerned about people, thinking you're snubbing them, just let them know. Let them know what you're up to. So far, these first 24 hours have been off to a good start. I miss Tumblr. It is past my bedtime, but normally when I'm getting ready for bed, like when I'm brushing my teeth and washing my face, I'll have my phone open with Tumblr next to me, and it's just what I do. I enjoy it. It makes getting ready for bed a little bit more enjoyable, and I can't do that. So instead I'm talking to you. All right, I'm going to bed. Hey guys! Oh, hang on. Okay, so today is now day 10 of this little experiment, and these past 10 days have been pretty interesting. Some benefits so far that I have definitely noticed. First of all, I'm getting a ton done when your entertainment options of any kind are reduced. You are much more inclined, it turns out, to do the less fun things. Also, because most of my entertainment options involve Japanese, like that's, kind of what I'm allowed to do. I have been studying Japanese a little bit more than usual, so that's been great. Now, there have been a couple difficult times that seem to come up over and over again. So the first one is when I am really exhausted, like at the end of the day, when all I want to do is sit and veg out for a little bit, do something mindless, watch something, consume someone else's media instead of having to produce my own. That is when the temptation is really strong. And it turns out, and I think the book addresses this as well, You don't actually need all that much brain downtime. You just need to be switching the types of tasks that you're doing. The book too also really encourages you to engage in hobbies, both ones that maybe you had when you were younger, or developing new ones. Because Cal Newport, that was his name, right? Says that it's really easy to, just feel this constant lack of activity, and instead we can't just say, oh, my life is now without social media. It's saying, this is what I'm doing instead, so we can focus on what we're getting instead of what we're leaving out. Does that make sense? So I have been reading a ton, and that is a hobby that I used to have all growing up. The other hard part has come in during those little moments of downtime, like when you're waiting in line, or I've been doing a lot of grocery pickups. When you're just sitting there, that's typically when you would hop onto social media or do something. And not being able to do that has actually been really good. It's made me feel a little bit like a kid again, and really that's something I've noticed throughout this whole thing, is it makes me feel a little bit like a kid again, where going online is something special. Being connected or engaging in these interpersonal online activities feels like something special. The book talks about this too, right? Yeah. In our connected world, it's so easy to never have a moment of downtime, where we are constantly engaged in reading other people's thoughts, scrolling through feeds, right? There's never a moment of just sitting there. It has been good to kind of reclaim those little moments and to just kind of sit there and be like, you know what? This is okay. I can just sit here and the world's not gonna end and we're gonna make it through. Okay, so that's like all my notes. Those are just things that I've been observing so far. We're only a third of the way done. I miss YouTube a lot. I miss it a lot. Every now and then I get on there to look something up, and I'll glance at my suggested videos pages and I see like what all my favorite YouTube creators are creating, and I'm like, I want to watch that so bad. But I just know I'm just saving it up for the end of this experiment, when I can consciously decide to watch it instead of just watching it out of habit and out of robotic impulse. Okay, anyway, that's it for today. Talk soon. Hello. All right, well, it is now, ooh, how's this lighting? I didn't get dressed up for you guys at all or anything. Hope that's okay. It is now day 17, 18. I keep thinking that we are almost at the end. We are definitely not. This has been taking a while. But overall, it has been getting easier. I haven't really found that I need social media for much of anything except for messaging. I will take that back. I've been trying to sell some furniture, and I haven't been able to actually list it on Facebook. So instead I've been using OfferUp, which is just another, reselling app. And that's been all right. What else? Something interesting. I just ate a bunch of coffee beans because I don't really drink coffee, but every now and then I need just a little bit of caffeine. They're super dry. Anyway, this one is just kind of a slog. It's like, I think I know exactly what I want to reintroduce, and that is, man, I miss YouTube videos. Like when I sit down to eat dessert, or it's always when I'm eating. And books are sometimes good, but I run out of books really quickly. Once I'm done with a book, it's like, I gotta go find another one. And the first couple weeks I flew through books because that's all I had available to me, and I still have like, I'm gonna go pick up some books from the library today, but it's also just harder to eat while reading something versus eating while watching something. I know this is really weird and specific, but anyway, that is the one thing that I really, really want to reintegrate into my life. But, who knows? Maybe it's still just a habit that needs breaking, and I'll find that out at the end of this. So I'm not cheating. I really want to cheat. But no, we're going to do this the right way. We're going to make it through, and I'll check back in again soon and let you know if that desire is waning or if it continues. Okay, so I do have to admit, I did cheat once during this experiment where I did scroll through web articles on my phone in bed like I wasn't supposed to, and it was specifically because I was really stressed and anxious about the state of the world. I think many of you guys can relate, but I paid for it because I definitely was up super late and got really awful sleep that night. But it did teach me a little bit about myself and about my relationship with stress and anxiety in general. I realized that, and I've always known this a little bit, but it became even more clear that if I am anxious about something, it arises late at night, and especially when I am distracting myself all evening, it'll arise right before I go to bed. And that distraction could be from either scrolling through social media or reading a book for hours, where I spend my whole night doing something and then I look up and I'm like, oh wait, I feel stressed about something, and then I need to go deal with it. And so it has been really good to recognize that, so I can be more mindful about checking in with myself throughout the evening, not waiting until it gets to that point. And it's been really healthy. Oh hey guys, I've been meaning to film this like all day. Today is day 30. Day 30. It is nighttime and I am about to go to bed. But I am so excited for tomorrow. I feel like I'm gonna be a kid in a candy shop, just like consume all the content. But no, the goal is to be mindful about it and make some smart decisions as far as what I want to mindfully integrate back into my life. We'll figure it out. I'll let you know how it goes later. So it's now been a week or two since the end of that experiment, and I thought it would be good to go over what's changed. What did I learn from this? And got my notes here. So many things. First of all, I would definitely say that I am less stressed now. I think going into this, I wasn't extremely stressed by any means, but there was always just that little, almost that hitch in the back of your throat that, oh, gotta deal with something, there's something to deal with. And some of it is warranted, some of it is stress, but some of it isn't warranted. It's just anxiety out there floating. And I do think that that anxiety has gone down quite a bit. And a big reason for that is because I'm now getting my news from balanced sources on my own terms. I'm not in that breaking news culture anymore. It's weird because I think that our culture really tries to teach us that we need to know what is happening at all times, or else we're uninformed, we're irresponsible, we're ignorant, and that's just not true. Like, oh, hi cat. Okay. You can be an informed citizen without having to prescribe to every breaking news event that ever happens. You can read news on your own terms, from your own sources, without having to listen to what everyone is talking about on social media. That's totally fine. Other things, I finished 9 books in that month. It was okay. Come on. I read 9 books, which was fantastic. I don't think I've read that many books in the past year. Rekindling that hobby was absolutely wonderful, and it is absolutely something that I'm continuing to do. Now, friend-wise, that's of course a big question. Did I feel cut off from people? Yes and no. Mostly no. I should say that I am a person who does already have pretty low requirements for socializing. I'm definitely pretty introverted. And I have a close-knit group of friends, and we already have a private chat group, so I didn't feel like I needed to be on social media in order to interact with them. My family's also in town, and I got to visit them a couple times, so I didn't feel really that cut off. Though I will say it was a bit of a bummer missing some photos that people posted, especially some from my family that I missed, but it was a month. I lived. Really, I didn't think it would change things that big, that drastically, but it really has. First of all, on the basic end, I don't click to Facebook compulsively anymore, which is wonderful. And I'm keeping that as a habit by staying logged out of Facebook when I'm not actively choosing to use it. So I never want to go back to just opening a tab and clicking over to Facebook when I'm bored. I always want it to be a conscious decision. Second, this is the big one. I have decided to post goodbye messages on Twitter and Instagram. And thank you, first of all, if you follow me on there, and I'm sorry that I am leaving there. I do think that I'll be lurking a little bit. I'm not going to be deleting my accounts, but I'm posting goodbye messages so that people realize that I'm not there actively anymore. This was a really big decision, that I didn't even think I would be making, but I realized that both those platforms for me have been performance platforms. Facebook, I can interact with family and friends, even some followers through my Facebook page. I might delete my Facebook page. We'll see. Instagram and Twitter have been performance platforms. And by that, I mean, I've never really been that authentic on there. It's just been stuff that I don't need to be doing, or stuff that I don't really care about. It's stuff that I think that I should be doing, and that's why I do it even though it's not right for me. So this is just a process of realizing what's right for me, and Instagram and Twitter aren't. That said, if you do want to keep up with me outside of YouTube, I do have an email newsletter that I send on it's supposed to be weekly. It's more of an every other week, maybe a little bit longer basis, where I share just what's going on in my life in a more long form format. I do have the sign up link below if you're interested in that. Oh my gosh, guys, I am so happy to be back here. It's wonderful. I love YouTube. That said, I do think that my relationship with it is quite a bit healthier, where previously I could just fall down that YouTube hole of recommended video after recommended video. And now it's definitely a lot more balanced. I still love watching videos over lunch or sometimes in the evenings, but I might read a book instead. And when I do watch videos, it's typically not just falling down that hole. It's typically just a video or two from my favorite creators, and that's enough because I don't need it. I have other things in my life that I enjoy doing that this time off has reminded me about. Thane, dude. So overall, doing this experiment was wonderful. I definitely got a lot of benefit from it. My life feels a little bit slower in a really good way. Like I'm doing more of what I love, and I'm noticing myself moving through time rather than constantly being buried in screens. And with all that said, I still think that social media does have some value. Even this video was inspired by a book recommendation that I heard about on social media. It actually came from a Facebook comment. So the key is to figure out how you can get that value from social media without getting bogged down and trapped by all the extra things that the algorithm wants you to consume. So should you quit social media? I mean, I can't answer that for you, but there is one really clear way for you to find out. So until next time, guys, maybe go pick up a copy of Digital Minimalism. Give it a read, see what happens. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Are you a cat person or a dog person? Tell me in the comments below. I was always a dog person. I still am a dog person, but we have a cat. I've never had a cat before this one. This is Thane, by the way. But they told me that cats are assholes, and this one's just a needy baby. And I love him. But dear goodness, that's his butt for you. Enjoy.
Good boy being my camera focuser. Hey, puppy. He's a good boy. You're a good boy, Kylo.